The Call of Duty Challenges Elite is right around the corner, and we've got a lot of different things that we are going to be talking about. There's been a lot that has been going in, both on a good side as well as on a bad side on the North American side. Currently, everything seems to be running relatively smoothly on the EU side. I don't have any updates on whether or not Clutch Rain were able to get their pass going into Major 1. Hopefully, they're still working on that if that has not been done already. If they haven't done, great, because I really want to see them being found on land. But first of all, we do want to talk about the Stallions having a bit of a struggle with the Elite qualifier. Unfortunately, Legend chose to step down after the roster lock that would happen for the Challengers Elite. Legend stepped down, causing a huge issue with the Stallions' red ability to play in the qualifiers. They're still currently working on a last-minute sub. I know Octane was scrimming with Stallions Red for a little bit of time, but then they moved on and picked up Heist, who will be playing for the Stallions Red, but FACEIT have yet to make a decision currently on the Stallions Red situation that arose. According to Challengers Intel, they posted a tweet that's saying there are 3 potential scenarios, saying they keep the same seating as planned with Legend and play with Heist, B, they get dropped down to play the seating that they'd have with Heist's pro points, and C, the evidence of an emergency is not substantial enough to warrant a substitute, and they would be disqualified from the qualifier. But according to CDC Intel as well, it is looking that decision there is seeming to be very, very unlikely, because the Stallions would have confirmed that they would have been DQ'd from the qualifier. I really hope that they are able to at least get something together and make something happen, so that way they are able to play in the Elite qualifier. Because if you didn't watch this last episode of This Week in Challenges, make sure you guys go check that out. I'll get that link down in the description below of this current video, so that way you guys can see kind of what that, like, the importance of the Elite, but we'll kind of talk about it a little bit later as to how the Elites are basically the real bread and butter of the Challengers scene. We've had these Challengers Cups to kind of help establish some pro points, to give some players opportunities to be able to play in various tournaments and get them ready to qualify for the Elite. But we'll be talking about that as we get into this upcoming tournament here. But before we get into the Elite, I do want to talk about one other thing, which are the current Challengers records through the first 3 cups. There are series kills and damages from best of 5s, and honestly, this is kind of all over the board. I'm really, really liking this so far. The B07 record for kills for Hardpoint goes to Aluka at 46, who is going to be continuing to play in the Elite under Omid Brooklyn, while also being a sub on FaZe Vegas. This was talked about and confirmed by both FaZe Vegas and Omid Brooklyn. I have another video on that. You can check that out as well. Just click on my face and you'll see it. But you can check that out. And then in terms of hardpoint damage, the record goes to QK4B from the Stallions Academy, or not Stallions, Falcons Academy. Falcons Academy Green, who won the $3,000 for fun invitational. So congratulations to QK4B on that one. That's a pretty insane damage for a singular hardpoint in series. That's kind of incredible. SND kills goes to Mythics at 16. SND damage also goes to Mythics, which, I mean, if you're putting out 16 damage kills in an SND game, and that it's likely that that's also where he got that 1830 damage, because you're just putting out an insane amount of damage to be going out and also doing that many kills, unless you're just doing a bunch of one taps, getting those final shots from team shots or whatever. I don't know. But clearly Mythics is just built different in Search and Destroy to be able to get 16 kills in one game. And then we have the Overload kills. Currently, the Overload kills are shared by 4 different players: Standy, Brack, Aluka, and Capsule, 4 players who have been making a ton of leeway and challenges. We've already talked about Aluka being signed over to FaZe Vegas, but Standy is currently sitting as being one of the best players in challenges right now, absolutely frying his mind out under the Next Threat org. And so it's really important to kind of see like how Standy is showing up, and some of these other pro teams that might necessarily be wanting to look at making a change. If I'm any of them, I would be looking at picking up Standy. Standy has had brief stints in the league here and there, and I think he has an opportunity to honestly be a really, really, really strong contender on a CDL team if he gives another opportunity, because he's showing his stats and numbers, as well as his POV is showing that he knows what he's doing in this game, and that this game is working out really well for him. So I think he could be a pretty solid pickup for any team. Then Brack and Capsule, again, 2 players who have been in and out of the league a few times. Both of them continuing to be one of the best Challengers players. Brack has been showing up he played at EWC under Omit, and he has been kind of all over Challengers recently. Hasn't been in the league for a few years, but I do think it might be time for him to possibly get another opportunity back in. Some people might be saying he's too old, but I feel like if you get to that point where you've been in and out for a while, you kind of really, I think Brack just really needs like one more major stint in the league before he's really going to be able to see what he wants. Maybe he might just be committed and be in the game for longer than Slasher. Who knows what he plans on doing, but I think he needs one more opportunity in the league to really just show himself up and see what he can do. And then we have Capsidal. Capsidal played at EWC under 5 Fears and had a brief stint under C9 for a little bit. And was in the league a little bit last year, but has been showing up really strong under the Telluride Bush Gaming squad. They've been doing a ton of good work there, winning 2 of the cups, and they now have sent TJ Halley off to Vancouver Surge. So to see what the Bush boys are going to be doing is going to be interesting, and Capsidal has been one of their strongest players. I don't know if I would pick him up in the league just yet because his team has been one full of pro players, but I think if he continues this track, he might be seeing himself in the league sometime around Major 2 or 3. Only time will tell again. And then we also have Overload Damage. That's going to Aluka. Aluka, again, we've talked about him a lot. I don't think we necessarily need to continue to talk about him. He's being looked at as the next Mercules. I don't know if he will be the next Mercules, but if anything, Mercules has been the one to show people that there is talent in Challengers. You know, he's a young kid. Aluka is a young kid playing at 18 years old and is now showing just how absolutely deadly he can be. And this is something that I do want to talk about a little bit, but we'll get into it after we talk about the Elite. I wasn't originally planning on it, so I'll have a weird kind of post cut, but this is something I do want to talk about in a little bit. And then we have series kills, Aluka, 133. Not going to beat a dead horse when it comes to Aluka. And then we have this series damage goes to Neum at 15,286, showing an incredible amount of damage. Neum has been honestly probably the strongest player on that Huntsman roster. He has been playing incredibly well, and I think it won't be long before we see Neum in the league, especially with the level of content that Huntsman have been doing with Optic. I can only imagine that they're also continuing to grow Huntsman as being another strong competitor, not just in challenges, but also having that leadership under Shotzi, Hook, Mercules, and Dashi, also working with the Huntsman boys, will give them a really, really strong opportunity to continue to build and be stronger players as time goes on. So I really think Neum is a player that you got to keep your eyes on while we get ready to go into this Elite. And I think the Huntsmen are going to be a team that we'll be watching. And then the First Bloods. Hey. No. Shut up. Hey. No. 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 You know better. Knock it off. Quiet. The First Bloods in the game is going to be another tie between Detain and Mythics. Detain is somebody we haven't seen too much of, but I do think that if you're going to be having one of the records here in Challengers, it is a possibility that you could be a really strong player. So I'm going to be looking out for his name in different areas. I think he's going to have an opportunity to really shake things up later. Mythics, again, being the S&D kill master, and obviously if you're getting those First Bloods, that does be a huge key to your success, and you can chain them that momentum together to put together a pretty wild S&D kill record. And then Overloads in the game goes to none other than Doug Sensor Martin, a man who's been coming back playing in Challengers, hasn't necessarily been the best in the Slayer area, but has clutched up in the most wild areas possible. And I really think that's what has been letting Sensor just show up and be a big name in Challengers, because he has just been this clutch player for his team in so many different areas. And I'm excited to kind of see if he's going to be able to build up that Slayer or what exactly is going to be happening. But these are your Challengers records as we get ready to go into the Elite qualifiers. And then we're going to now take a little bit of time to talk about the Elite. So what is the Elite? This shows the times and kind of gives you a bit of a breakdown. So this is straight from the CDL website. This is a CDL ran format. So this is something that is basically like if you are in the Elite, you are the Elite for Challengers. You know, there are Challengers Cups that any team can go in and play in, but the Elites are for only the best of the best. So this is going to be the best way to talk about it. This is just right off of the CDL website. I literally just Googled Call of Duty Challengers Elite and it pulled me right here. But we'll talk about it a little bit so you guys kind of get an idea of what the Elite is, how it works, and what the function is going to be for it. The Elite qualifiers represent the path for non-Elite players to get a spot in the Elite. Anybody can sign up, but only the top teams by Challengers points will make the cutoff to participate. The format will be a double elimination bracket competition on Saturday and Sunday before every opening match day of an Elite season. So basically how it's going to work is anybody can sign up for an Elite, but you have to have a certain amount of pro points and be a top 32 team in order to play in the qualifier. The qualifier will have a double elimination bracket. It'll be NA and EU. So before the start of each event on the Friday prior, the bracket will be published with the top teams seeded by Challengers points. NA and EU first qualifier will have 32 teams, and the remaining qualifiers will have 16 teams. The bracket ends when there are 12 teams left in the first qualifier and 4 teams are left in the second qualifier. So the Elite qualifiers are not broadcast, but the actual seasons will be broadcast on the Call of Duty Challengers YouTube. Make sure you guys go check that out. I will also have that link down in the description below because you guys are going to want to subscribe to that so that way you can see all of the Elites when they do come out. But once we get through the Elite, we then go into the season. There is the Elite season. 12 of the top teams, 2 groups of 6 in NA and EU, play each other once in separate round-robin competitions. Top 4 teams from each group then advance into an 8-team double elimination bracket. So 12 of the top teams, so 2 groups of 6 in NA and EU will be playing in a round-robin competition. So you're going to have 2 groups of 6. Each team will play each other, and then the top 4 teams from each group will make it to the playoff bracket. So you do need to win a substantial amount of your matches in order to qualify for the playoff bracket, as well as if you do qualify for the playoff bracket in season 1 of the Elite, you will then continue to be qualified for later seasons of the Elites, which is a huge opportunity for Challengers teams. If you are a team that does get into the first Elite, you really want to push for that playoff bracket because that will just continue to keep you in the next Elite. And if you continue that momentum, you'll continue to show yourself as being a strong competitor in Challengers and being a strong person in the Elites. And if you are showing up in the Elites and consistently making playoffs, that is going to give you an opportunity to be scouted by those CDL teams. The best ways that we've been talking about it for being scouted by CDL teams is performing well in cups, streaming your POV because cups are not broadcasted. If you want to show how good you are, you got to be covered in some way, whether it's turning on your own stream, letting somebody codcast you, whatever that's going to look like. And then another good way is the Elites. And obviously, another way that everybody will look at it is performing on LAN. If you are going to be performing on LAN, then that will be another way that teams will be looking at you as being one of the top competitors in Challengers. And in that will then help to increase your odds at being on a CDL team. And then they gave the full schedule here for all of the Elites. So you definitely are going to want to be focusing on these Elites. You want to do as good as you possibly can, get through as many games as you possibly can, and perform your absolute heart out, as well as stream your POV. Continue to stream, continue to show how strong of a competitor you are, and if you continue to show that on your own stream, as well as you can show that you've got a personality, because pro teams do look at personalities, especially as the content game becomes even more important. Personality does become a big deal for your team, so you have to make sure that you are showing a strong personality, showing that you don't necessarily have to be like a Shotzi, but you can't shy away from doing content. If you're going to be somebody who avoids trying to do content, then teams are going to want to pick you up because the fans aren't going to get behind a player that doesn't want anything to do with the content, which is going to show that they don't want anything to do with the community. So make sure you guys are talking about that and being a part of content and creating content in order to make yourselves look as strong as possible. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the U18 Call of Duty League. This is a under 18, a youth program for Call of Duty League esports. You can find them on Twitter at U18 COD League. This is a pretty official, I think this is the official league for anybody who is under 18 looking to compete in Call of Duty. And you can even see there are a ton of partnered teams. You can see them here. It is there are a lot. We've got Octane Esports, Omit Brooklyn, Pot of Gold, Esland, Houston Spartans, Urina, Chaos, New England Bayliners, Galaxy, Atlantis Conflicted, and EMPXWLG. There are a ton of partnered teams for the U18, and registration has been open at least since December of 2025. And one of the teams that I do want to mention that is a part of the U18 Call of Duty League that has been talked about being a big part of this is Omit Brooklyn. Omit Brooklyn arguably is the king organization of Call of Duty. Not only have they been bringing just a bunch of players into the league, but they have created this model of bringing players from the U18, bringing them up into challengers, and then bringing them even further up into the league. Mercules was a part of the U18 squad. Aluka was a part of the U18 squad before playing in challengers. So investing in players when they're younger is going to be a key part for continuing to build CDL level talent. And that is something that a lot of teams I don't think fully understand, is that in order to continue to build pro players, you have to invest in the rookies. You know, there's always been these rumors about friendship leagues, people picking up players that they're familiar with because they want to play with people maybe that they played with back in the day and things like that. But at the same time, when you look to pick up a rookie, if they don't have the right leadership behind them, they get thrown to the wolves, and it usually doesn't end well, i.e. Legend did not have great people to play alongside him when he got picked up on a Vancouver Surge, and he got absolutely cooked, and now is taking a step back. I don't know if him taking a step back is due to just like some of the feedback that he has been given from joining the CDL, but I wouldn't be surprised because he has just been getting absolutely cooked. Even Formal himself made a point to reach out to Legend because he did used to play with Legend on his Halo team, so he wanted to make sure that he was doing okay and make sure that everything was going fine, despite the fact that the setup for him was not going great to start. But in a situation like this, investing in players when they're younger and continuing to grow them is something that is absolutely massive, not just for creating better players, but, you know, it's something I talk about this a lot on my streams. I'm very invested in building up the youth of today so that way they can be better than the adults of today. So that way when the youth of today, which are the adults of tomorrow, the adults of tomorrow can be better than the adults of today. And that's something that Omit Brooklyn and Rafi have been doing. Rafi has even said, I think it was when he was, I don't remember where he was when he said it, but he was talking about it on a stream where he was saying that he is invested in not just these players as players, but as people. He's coaching them in life, helping them to be the best version of themselves that they can be. And that's why they go far as investing in the U18. And I really would love to see more teams do that. I really think that it is even important for school systems to invest in esports. It's so hard for players to be able to feel passionate about something if they can't do it in high school. And so I'm using this as a little bit more of a PSA than maybe I want to, but it's fine. I'm going to do it because I care. Investing in the youth, investing in the players when they're younger, continue to build them up in their passions will not only help their passions to succeed and get the dreams that they want, but if they see that there are people behind them, then they will be more likely to listen to the things when they matter. If somebody is showing that they are invested in their Call of Duty life, then they're going to be more likely to listen to you when you want to give them advice about life. People do not care how much you know until they know that you care. And that is something that Omit Brooklyn is showing right here as the king organization of Call of Duty. They invest in them young, they carry them through, invest through them in life, and bring them all the way to the top caliber, not just in the CDL, but of life. Invest in your youth, and that will pave the way for something incredible. All right, that's going to be it for this video, guys. I thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Thanks for listening to my tirade about this. You can definitely tell where my passion lies. And so make sure you guys subscribe if you're new. If you like the video, if you enjoyed this. I do want to continue. I'm going to be covering a lot of challenges, elites. I'm probably going to be doing more of my analytical stuff, being more focused on challenges, because there's just going to be an insane amount of breakdowns coming in on the CDL, and I want to just focus on challenges and really highlight what challenges is, how good of a program it is, and do everything that I can to be as involved as possible. So thank you guys again for watching. You are loved, you are valued, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.